Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this webinar on Better Tomorrow Retirement Planning, being organized by the United Kingdom Ghana Chamber of Commerce in conjunction with People's Pensions Trust and FSB Law Consult. The objective of this webinar is to discuss how to plan and prepare for retirement, to share insights on how to maximize retirement benefits, to address common pre- and post-retirement concerns, and to share insights on how to plan one's life here and hereafter. And also an opportunity for questions, discussions, and knowledge sharing. I'd like to thank the UKGCC for putting this webinar together and giving me the opportunity to moderate this program. My name is Laud Senanu. I'm a legal practitioner, but I spent all my working life working in the social security and pensions industry. To be precise, I worked with Social Security and National Insurance Trust for over 40 years. I started as a clerk and I retired as a general manager in charge of operations. About half of the period I worked in senior and top management positions. I worked as a prosecutions manager, as a compliance manager. I went in branch and area operations, in the benefits division, and finally, as a general manager operations. For a brief period between 2013 and 2015, I was seconded to the NPRA, National Pensions Regulatory Authority, as the acting chief executive officer. So throughout my working life, I've come to understand how important it is for one to plan for his or her retirement. One major concern we had as NATE was this phenomenon of workers always petitioning for a change of their date of birth. On a daily basis, petitions were being received, to the extent that we had to create a whole unit to handle those petitions. And I must tell you, what we found out was that a few of such petitions, let's say less than 5%, were really genuine petitions of cases where date of birth had not been properly recorded and all that. But in most of the cases, over 90%, these were workers who wanted their date of birth to be reduced so that they could continue working for a few more years. And why was it so? Because they wake up and all of a sudden they realize that I'm retiring in 2, 3, 4, 5 years' time. And have I really prepared for my retirement? No. So the only alternative is to find ways of staying in employment for a much longer period. This is the reason why I'm so much excited about this program and being part of it, and more importantly, the moderator for today. While Social Security retirement income is designed to replace about 40% of the average worker's pre-retirement salary, most financial advisors say that you will need from 70% going of your pre-retirement earnings to live comfortably after retirement. So if you mismanage your preparations for retirement, then there are going to be a lot of sad moments for you. Without that, financial security in retirement takes preparation, planning, and commitment. It is said that those who most enjoy their retirement do so in part because they had a retirement plan, which if effected smartly can provide one with enough money to cover all of one's later years living expenses. Retirement planning is therefore essential and should be considered by almost everyone at an early stage of their professional life, keeping in mind how much to save as well as where to save. Another important consideration for retirement planning is estate planning. People live in official bungalows, estates throughout their working life, and then they retire only to realize that they don't have no abode of their own, so they must go back to their village or their family homes to reside over there. So estate planning is a very essential part of retirement planning. And again, how to distribute your wealth when you are no more there. That is writing wills or writing a will on how to distribute your assets, your properties, so that when you are no more there, there will not be any confusion as to who takes what. These are some of the things that we'll be looking at in today's webinar. And ultimately, this webinar will enable participants to make sound, informed decisions regarding retirement planning, and estate planning, so as to build the stable financial future they desire. And for today's program, we have two very experienced persons to give us deep insight into the whole issue of retirement planning. We have Mr. Kofi Eba-Miezah Polley, who is the Chief Operations Officer of the People's Pensions Corporate Trust. And we also have lawyer Francisca Serwaa, the founder and managing counsel and head of litigation at FSB Law Consult, who will be delving deeper into all these issues concerning retirement planning. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome you once again to this afternoon's webinar. And for participants, let me remind you that the presentations to be made today will be available on the UKGCC website after the program for you to access. Again, I'll urge you to check your chat boxes and all the handouts. And if you have questions, there'll be an opportunity to ask questions after the presentations. But you could also pull them through the Q&A boxes where you feel comfortable to do that. So on that note, let us start with the first presentation to be given by Mr. Kofi Polley. And let me give you a little background, a little profile of Mr. Kofi Polley. As I said earlier on, he's the Chief Operations Officer of People's Pension Trust, and he has considerable experience in Social Security administration, having worked at Social Security and National Insurance Trust for quite some time. He holds a postgraduate diploma in universalizing social security from the Institute of Social Studies, The Hague, Netherlands, and a Bachelor of Science degree in mathematics from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, KNUST, Kumasi. In the year 2012, Kofi was appointed a General Manager for Universal Pension Masters Trust, where he built a focused mindset specifically among the staff. And this was evident in the smooth implementation of the company's second-tier pension policies and programs. In the financial industry, where Kofi worked as the General Manager for Gisla Financial Services Limited and Wealth Vision Financial Services Limited, he was a valuable contributor to the sales marketing teams and drove better alignment, on which he revamped innovation on funds, mobilization, and debt recovery. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure we have the right person to give us some insight into retirement planning. So at this stage, I'll call Mr. Kofi Polley to give us his presentation. Kofi.
Thank you very much, sir. And I think your introduction will not be complete without telling them that you are my mentor as mates. And therefore, this session is a big pressure on me because it's more like defending my thesis. Before I start, as I'm sharing my screen, I have two questions. I'll ask one now, and when I have finished my presentation, I'll ask the other. Anybody who gets the two questions right, I will set up a personal pension scheme for the person with an initial amount of 200 Ghana cedis.
Wow.
So as I'm sharing my screen, I'm going to ask the first question, and then you have 1 minute to answer. The first question is that, what name do we give to a person who is happy on a Monday?
On a Monday?
Yeah.
Wow.
TikTok, 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 TikTok. Okay, do you have any answer?
So if you have an answer, you can show your hand.
By the way, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, good. Just a minute, let me get it all sorted out.
I think there's a hand up.
Yeah, so let's get the answer from the hand. Your name and please the answer.
Okay, I don't currently see a hand up, but there are lots of answers in the chat box though.
Okay, so tell me the questions.
Oh, the answers said there's happy, there's pensioner, a successful person, an employer, joy, retiree, and there's another answer, a pensioner.
Okay, so pensioner, retiree, they get it right. Those who said pensioner or retiree, the answer is right. They don't have anywhere to go, so Mondays they're excited. Unlike those of us who have to Monday come and then report on the previous week's work. On this note, I will start my presentation, and we are going to start with how to plan for retirement. And you start with introduction, and then we look at categories of retirement capital, and then we build on it. Well, we all know that planning is very key. In our corporate world, one of the things we say is that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And therefore, just as in retirement, it's important to plan. So retirement plan is basically the process of setting up goals for your retirement years, and then what are the actions and decisions you take to meet those goals. Unfortunately, I don't know what's happening to my slides. It's not moving, but no problem, and we'll get on with it. Unfortunately, most of the time when we are setting these goals, we seem to be only interested in the financial goals. That's not bad, that's good, but it's been said that the financial capital alone will not get you a very happy retirement or enjoyable retirement or a better tomorrow, better still. And so we have done a bit of research, and we have realized that you need at least 3 capital to basically go for a very enjoyable retirement. Now, what are these 3 capitals? So just as any venture, before you retire, you need a capital. So for retirement, you also need a form of a capital. Now, this capital we are talking about are health capital, social capital, and then financial capital. So we take them one by one. When we say health capital, what do we mean? Now, we are saying that the kind of life you lead today will definitely show in your old age. And therefore, it's important that you live a very healthy life today. Now, one of the things I ask people anytime I do this thing face-to-face is that I ask them, especially those who have cars, how often do you take your car to service? And suddenly hands will come out and say, oh, every 3 months, every 6 months, I buy this type of oil, which is good. The next question is that, why do you take your car to the service? And then the answer is that I need to maintain the car so the car will last long. Now, the question we should ask ourselves is that, do we maintain ourselves? How often do we go to medical checkups? So we will be driving the car, we are servicing the car, but we are not servicing ourselves. And therefore, if we don't do this, then as we are growing old, we are vulnerable to all health issues. Now, in your old age, when you are not very well, you have health issues, trust me, a chunk of your financial capital, your savings, will now even go into your defending or taking care of your health, which then makes nonsense of the so much savings that you put down. So it's important that we take our health capital very serious. The next thing we want to look at is the social capital. By social capital, what do we mean? By social capital, we mean that what kind of influence do you have on people? Do you attract people? Are you the type of person who has such a wonderful network and therefore people gravitate around you? And that makes life easy for you, because trust me, as you grow older, you are going to lose quite some friends and all that. But the one that you have, how do you relate to them? One of the things I said is that COVID taught us a very good lesson, especially for spouses. Suddenly there was a lockdown. You are left all alone with your spouse and kids. So if you're a type of person who your spouse is not your friend, your kids are not your friends, then there's a trouble. Because then in the lockdown, you need to, how do you cope? And it is the same as retirement. Because by the time you retire, 9 out of 10, your kids will be out of home. You probably left with your spouse. Is your spouse your friend? Do you have colleagues or schoolmates that you can just meet and talk and have fun? And therefore, it is important to build this social network. One of my favorite writers, J.C. Maxwell, says that your network is your net worth. We have seen people who have left their employment and they go back and they are not even offered a seat because of the way they live their life whilst working, how they treated their subordinates. And we've seen others who are embraced when they go back to their former employers. So it is important that in our daily life, we try to impact life. We build a very good social capital. Because in the end, that is what we need to survive on. Yes, I must admit that the days where you go and take a niece or a nephew to come and take care of probably are gone. But the extended family is still important. And these days it's even easier. Pick a phone, call a niece and nephew. Oh, I hear you're opening school today. What course are you doing? What are your interests? Just a bit of advice here and stay connected. Because we've heard it where people have said that, well, this man, leave him alone. When he had his money, he spent it with just his nuclear family. And therefore, the time that you need help, there's nobody to assist you. We move to financial capital, which is very, very important because you need money. Now, when we say financial capital, what we mean is that you just don't need to accumulate money, look for money, but you need to be money smart. You need to have a financial acumen. And I think that one of the things that we don't do so well in this part of our world is that we don't teach people to be money smart. One of the things I've been advocating is that you have a child going to school and no, I won't give him money because you spend it on toffee. This child goes from class 1 all the way to SHS. He enters the university and suddenly you're giving this child a monthly allowance. How is he going to handle the money? He's never handled money before. But assuming you were able to say, whilst the child was growing up, you give him money. Look, I'm giving you 10 cedis for the week. If you're able to save 2 cedis, I'll add another 2 cedis to you. Then we are teaching them to save. And therefore, we need to be money smart and we need to start from somewhere. But before then, the good thing about financial capital is that we have 3 basic ways that you can easily do it. Under the National Pensions Act, which is Act 766, it gives us a good opportunity to plan for our financial capital. So let me quickly give a brief of the Pensions Act. We have 3 tiers, Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Under Tier 1, which is handled by SNATE, it is a mandatory scheme. So once there's an employer-employee relationship, you are mandated, the employer is mandated to pay contribution to SNIT. Tier 2 is also mandatory. Now the tier 1 with SNIT is what we call a defined benefit scheme, where there's a formula to calculate your pension once you begin to contribute. Tier 2 is where we call defined contribution. So the law says that right from the word go, the employer will take 5.5% of the employee's salary and then add 13%, making it 18.5%. It is this money that he has to pay 13.5% to SNIT and 5% to a corporate trustee that is handling tier 2. So for example, People's Pension Trust, we handle tier 2. You give us your 5%. And then when you are going on pension, we pay you lump sum. The advantage with this law is that all these schemes are tax exempt. What I mean is that the law says that you have 35% of your gross salary, which should not be taxed once all of it is going into your pension schemes. And therefore already you have 18.5, that is gone. You are left with 16.5, but 18.5 is mandatory. So the 16.5, this way you can take advantage of the third tier, where we have the Provident Fund or the Personal Pension Scheme. So with the Personal Pension Scheme, once you're contributing to it, then of course, that money will be taken out before tax will be applied. People's Pension Trust has made it very easy for anybody at all, be it you're in the informal sector or the formal sector, to take advantage of our PPT Personal Pension Scheme, where you can easily go online or use just a phone. It can be YAM, it can be Plantain, because it's USSD, which operates on any phone at all. So by just dialing *789 *111#, you can register and contribute to your pension scheme. The other thing is the savings and your investment. I like savings, but I prefer investment. But the good thing is that you need to save before you can invest. You need to save before you can invest. So I always tell people that, well, just as we do in the corporate world, we have a long-term plan, a short-term plan, and then a medium-term plan. Look at pension as a long-term plan. Look at your personal savings as a medium-term plan. Because let's face it, almost 18.5% is going, you still have a chunk of the money coming to your hand. And a lot of people say that, how do you save? People have so many formulas. For me as a Christian, I believe in the 80-10-10 rule. The 80-10-10 rule means that I take my salary, I use 80% for myself, 10% for my tithe, and 10% I save. Now, the good thing is that once you start saving this 10% and you get comfortable, you can then increase it bit by bit. Others also say do 50-30-20. So 50% for necessities, 30% for your current present enjoyment, and then save 20 cedis for your, say, your pension, or you save it and then you invest. So these are also ways that you can invest. And then there are a lot of investment opportunities. The treasury bill is there, mutual funds are there. Yes, I know the terrain had been a bit uneasy, but however, there are still very good institutions that can do a good job. And that's where we need to search. Now, finally, I'll touch on something that is also good. Assets, like houses, and then land. These are good, but the challenge I have is that you must be careful and ensure that these assets that you are you have are easily put into liquid cash. So for example, if you are buying an asset or building a house, which you know you may need to rent out, and you go and build probably, say, a 5-bedroom house, it becomes difficult to rent it out because the number of people who can rent that house are very limited. And therefore, if that is your plan to make an income, By the time you need it and you're looking for people to get it, they are not there. If it's a land, where is the land? Is it a prime area? Is that area that you know that is developing and therefore people are ready to get it? If it's the land where you have land guards always fighting, you are in trouble. And so assets are good, but you must be careful and ensure that these assets are assets that you can easily turn into liquid. I'll add that even with the savings, we must also be sure how we go about our savings and invest. There are so many ways, and one of the ways that people do is to even automate it. So for example, standing order and that kind of thing is always easier to do because the money that comes into your hand is what you really feel it. And so somebody says that our poverty is not so much how much money comes into our hand, but how the money leaves our hand. And at this stage, as we are planning for retirement, it's important to build wealth and not debt. Now, these days, it's easier to rather build debt because a lot of institutions are ready to give loans for buying all kinds of things on high purchase. When you do some of these things, be careful because you may be building up debt instead of building up wealth. I will finally conclude on the first part by saying that it's important to start planning early and ask yourself how and where you want to retire. It's very important. How do you want it? Because it's when you ask these questions, that's what will help you to set up your goals. It's also good to plan, having in mind that you live longer than you think you will live. Create a financial plan and work at it. Deal with major debt. So for example, why would you go and take, say, a mortgage loan at the age of, say, 50, when probably the mortgage loan is 20 years? So what it means is that by the time you're on retirement, where your income is a bit stifled, now you have to pay a mortgage loan, which can be very stressful. It's also good to look out for other things that makes you happy. Don't just focus on your profession. There are a lot of things that make you look happy. We'll get into that in the second presentation. And finally, I'll say build a very good network with your friends and family. Thank you for the first part, and I'll move on to the second part. Hello?
Yeah, Kofi, go ahead.
It looks I've lost. Can you see my slides? Because I think I've lost it.
Yes, we can't see the slides.
Okay, let me reshare.
Yeah, but you go ahead and then, yeah.
Okay, all right. So the next thing is to plan for retirement psychologically. And so what do we mean by that? So what we are saying is that retirement is it's a major transition. It is something that will definitely come and hit you. And then if it's not planned, it's like out of faith, then you jump into something that you really don't know what's going to happen. And therefore, you must always have a plan to go into it. It's not just about financials. It's also about the things that you have to do. And so we are saying that, one, think about how you want to retire. Two, have a framework. And this thing should start about 3 years before you actually retire. Now, finally, then you have to be resilient and create some form of flexibility because eventually a lot of things will come into play. And then we are saying that the key to happy retirement is not just about money, but how you plan it. Now, let me quickly take you through the stages, the 5 stages of retirement. We have the imagination stage. That is between 15 to 6 years prior to retirement or pre-retirement. And this is where we get so excited. Because at this stage, you feel like you have to work so hard. You want to go and have fun. You are tired. You are excited. You are saving. You are looking into the future, what you want to do. For some people, this stage can also be stressful. Because then suddenly they realize that they've actually not planned at all. And then they get agitated. The second stage is the anticipation stage, which is just about 5 years to pre-retirement. And this also creates a very good excitement. Or this is when people then begin to think about what they are going to do. They have wild plans. I'll travel over the world. I'll visit my kids across the world. I'm going to set up some business. I'll probably go and be a bushyapen in my hometown. I mean, these wild ideas come in. Once again, those who have not planned early become very aggressive around this time. And this is the time when, if you are not a very strong-willed person, you may start demanding 10%. Then we get to the third stage, which we call the liberation stage. At this stage is the D-Day, you are retiring. And here it is full of excitement. People are happy. Finally, I've worked, I'm tired, I'm going to rest. I don't need to go through the Accra traffic. I'll wake up as I went, I'm going to register with the gym. I'll do all kinds of things. It's very exciting. The only problem is that here, the euphoria can die down as shortly as it started, because it will then bring you to the stage 4, which we call the reorientation stage. And this is the toughest stage. Because let's face it, even if you decided to travel, how long can you travel? So now you come back and suddenly there's nothing for you to do. There's so much time on your hands. In fact, this stage, if you're not careful, you will feel irrelevant to society. I'm sure you all remember the story of our former president. May he so rest in peace, Flight John Rawlings. And there was a story that one day after Kofi had taken over, President Kofi had taken over, one day he got up, got dressed, called the driver, and let's go to the castle. Only to find out that he's no more the president. And this is where the reorientation comes in. Because suddenly it dawns on you, what am I doing? Who am I? Nobody is coming to you for advice. If you are the type who, when your subordinates see you, they are running away, people now see and they don't run away because you don't have that power. If you're in the workplace where people are bringing you things to sign to prove, that is not coming. And this is the stage where, if care is not taken, people get depressed and it can lead to early death. Then the final stage is where there's a reconciliation. So if you're able to handle, especially the reorientation stage, then the final stage, you reconcile yourself. You accept it. You see your spookless level. And at this stage, you begin to enjoy life. You're now taking care of your grannies. You are taking it easy and all that. But you see, the challenge here is that you need to plan. And the plan is that begin to think of what you're going to do during your retirement. It need not be anything that will earn you more money, but something that you enjoy. And the truth is that, quite apart from our profession, all of us have certain things we do that we enjoy. Look at it. If you're somebody who you enjoy church activities, begin to get yourself involved in church activities. If you are somebody into sports, begin to see what you can do. Or even in your local community, what are some of the things that you can do that makes you happy? There's something all of us that makes us happy. It need not be something that will bring you money, but that also makes you relevant to society and to your community, and you are still seen as an important person. Fortunately for Ghanaians, our old boyism and old girlism is so good. And so if you really are into it, at this stage it helps. Because we are meeting here, we are going to help the school here, we are doing this, you still become relevant to people. So I'll end and conclude by saying that the biggest misconception is that retirement is going to be perfect without any planning or preparation. Like something magical will happen, it won't. And finally, retirement can be fantastic life stage, but don't jump into the sea before learning how to swim. Thank you very much. And I'll conclude by asking my last question. My last question is that we know that when you retire, you get some benefits. and mostly it's in cash. What other benefit do you get apart from the cash, apart from the finances? So we have 1 minute to answer this question. Okay, time up. So do we have the answers?
We have 2 answers. Benjamin says health cover, and then, okay, there's more answers coming in. Dennis says self-fulfillment. Martha says fulfillment. Jemima says experience. And Matthew says insurance cover. Lebanese says medical.
Oh.
David says opportunity of time. Beulah says peace of mind.
I'm so sad. Nobody got it right.
Oh.
The benefit is that your secret is safe because you tell your friend retirees your secret and they all forget.
Oh boy.
Thank you.
What a interesting notes to end with, Kofi. Yeah. Kofi, that's a nice one, eh?
Thank you, sir.
Right. Thank you so much, Kofi, for a very interesting. But Kofi, one thing, you spoke about the tax tax benefit that one can enjoy under the pension scheme, and you mentioned the figure 35%, 18.5 under the basic scheme, and then 16.5 under the personal pension scheme, 30. But I guess for persons who are not in formal employment and work on their own accounts, that's the self-employed persons, they will be going for the whole 35%. Is that right?
That is very right. So for them, they have the whole 35% to themselves.
Okay.
So even for companies that also have Provident Fund, the Provident Fund eats into the 16.5%.
Okay.
From my experience, it has always been about 10%. And so you still have 6.5% to play with. Okay. So this 6.5%, you can still take advantage and have a personal pension scheme. In that case, it means that one person, you have 4 pension schemes. You have the tier 1, tier 2, Provident Fund, and the personal pension scheme. Now, the wonderful thing about the personal pension scheme with People's Pension Trust is that once we register you, we create 2 accounts for you, a savings account and then a retirement account. Every contribution you make divided into 2 parts. Now, with the savings account, 6 months after your initial payment, you can always come and withdraw part or all of it. So you don't need to wait for retirement to even enjoy what you are saving with us.
Right. So if I decide not to, I'm a self-employed person, and decide not to contribute to a 30-year scheme, how do I enjoy that 35% tax rebate?
So it's as simple as that. I mean, if you decide to do, you can, if you're self-employed, you're still an employee. You can decide to do tier 1 and tier 2 as a voluntary contributor and take advantage of the 18.5%. So if you don't want a personal pension scheme, you can still enjoy the 18.5%. But the thing is that if you have the opportunity to enjoy 35, why do you want only 18.5?
Okay. But I need to join a scheme.
You need to join a scheme.
That's right. Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
so
you need to join.
If I don't join a scheme, I don't get that benefit.
Not at all, because when the GRA comes to you, you need to show proof that these monies are going into my pension scheme.
Now, Kofi, the other issue is, over the past year, we've had this turbulence in the microfinance, service and loans, and even commercial bank space, where a lot of companies have gone under, and by the government's effort, a lot of people have, been able to recoup their investments. There are a few outstanding, however. How can we assure persons who invest in these pension schemes that their monies or their investments are well protected or will be safe?
Thank you very much, sir. So one of the wonderful things about the Ghana scheme is the law. In fact, it is one of the best structured pension scheme I've seen around the world. One, the corporate trustee is supposed to work with two other partners. The two are the custodian of the funds and then the fund manager of the funds. So technically, the corporate trustee is just an administrator. He sees the money on paper because the contributions go straight to the custodian. The custodian is a bank licensed by Bank of Ghana and registered by the National Pension Regulatory Authority. So they keep custody of the funds. The fund manager advises the corporate trustee of where to invest to get better yields. So both the fund manager and then the corporate trustee, they see the money on paper, but the money is actually kept with the custodian. Even the custodian, he keeps the money for limited time. Because all this money, when they come, they're supposed to go to an investment tools or vehicles. Now, the safe thing is that these funds have strict guidelines of how to invest them. For example, you can't give this money to, say, a savings and loans company. You can't give it to, say, a microfinance company. You can invest in government bonds, treasury bills, equity, or local government bonds. Now, once you invest in all these bonds, let's face it, it doesn't matter whether the bank went down or not. These certificates are in the name of the corporate trustee. And so the corporate trustee can still always go for it when it yields. So basically, the corporate trustee, what it does is manages the database, the bio and the financial data, and also ensure that they pay accurately benefits to members. And even the benefits, they will advise the custodian, and then the custodian will pay from their end. Another layer to all this is that for every scheme, you have board of trustees. Now, this board of trustees see the scheme as an entity, a company on its own, and they are more or less like the board of directors. The board of trustees should be formed by one independent trustee who has nothing to do with the company and is not even a member and has been licensed by NPRA. Then at least you need somebody who is a member of the scheme to be on the board. And then, of course, a minimum of 3. The company can also nominate one person to be on this board of trustees. So they then seek the interest of the members. So you realize that for these 3 people, one doesn't care about the company. He has no relationship with the company. In fact, 2, they don't care about the company. One is a member seeking the interest of the members. The independent trustee is making sure that everything is done right. And then you have somebody from the company being on board. And so because of this wonderful arrangement, for the past 10 years, even though the industry is young, some companies have not been able to travel the whole distance. But I've not heard that people have lost their money. But the moment the company is not able to travel, NPRA comes in, take the database from you, hand it to the next company, and of course, the funds are with the custodian, also take hold of the funds and hand it to the next custodian. So it is very, very safe. I would say that our pension industry is one of the safest in the world.
Thank you, Kofi, for those assurances. Thank you once more. Our participants will have the opportunity to ask you some more questions after the second presentation. So please stand by. Counsel, Francisca, yes, it's your turn to give us some other perspectives about retirement, especially the legal issues relating to the writing of wills and all that. But before that, let me tell our participants who you are. So, distinguished participants, Francisca Serwaa Boateng is a lawyer who was called to the Ghana Bar about 23 years ago. She also holds a master's in law from Temple University, United States of America. Francisca founded FSB Law Consult in 2006. And her areas of practice include commercial litigation, family law and practice, property and real estate law, among others. She's a member of the International Bar Association and a former vice president of the Greater Accra branch of the Ghana Bar Association. Francisca is also the editor-in-chief of FSB Law Consult's popular newsletter titled The Ochuma. She is also a prolific writer and speaker. You can find out more about Francisca on her blog, her podcast on www.fsboating.com. Some of her interests include reading, traveling, aerobics, and most importantly, spending time with family and friends. So that is a person who will be talking to us about legal issues relating to retirement. Francisca, you're welcome.
Thank you so very much, Lord, for those kind words. And Kofi, congrats also for that wonderful presentation. I'm very, very excited and I'm grateful that despite the fact that we are all very busy people, we've made time to be here, especially with the participants. And I'm grateful that you've all spared the time to be here. First of all, I wish to thank UKGCC for this awesome opportunity for us to have this conversation today. And I'm especially grateful to Ajoba, the indefatigable executive director of the chamber, as well as a group of very hardworking team who made this possible within such a short time. And as Laud indicated, I will be speaking about estate planning, which should be seen as part of our preparation towards retirement. Because most of the time, we think that once we are contributing to SNIT, once we are paying tier 2, once we even go the step further and do the personal voluntary one under tier 3, we are home safe and dry. And we don't pay attention to the other aspects of our life as we need to do. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity. You know, sometime in July this year, a client of ours in Canada contacted us regarding the estate of her father. Now, her father was a dual citizen of Ghana and Canada, and he had died quite suddenly. And this individual had a will. In the will, he chose her daughter, his daughter, I should say, as the executor. So the daughter was the one who was supposed to be in charge of distributing the property to the beneficiaries. Now, the man in the will had given a property that he owned in Ghana, a 5-bedroom house, huge one, to his children. And so after his death, of course, in Canada, they had engaged a lawyer to start the probate process. And guess what? They were there when they heard that a certain woman who was married to the man at some point in time, but they were in the process of divorcing, had gone into the house, changed the locks, basically taking control. So this daughter had to fly down to Ghana quickly to come and sort things out. Now, as soon as the daughter came here, the first thing she did was to make sure that a copy of the will that her late father left behind was at hand. She made it available to the police because there was obviously a potential breach of the peace. She made a copy available to the police. She made a copy available to other members of the man's family and everybody else who was interested. And by that fact alone, she was able to calm things down for the processes towards the probate in Canada to go on, and also to ensure that at least that property was secured. You see, now if the man had not done a will and carefully chosen his executor, that is his daughter, to take care of his estate in the event that he passed, you can just imagine what would have happened as he died so suddenly. You know, so, and that is why it is necessary for us to plan our lives. We should plan it such that Even when we die, even when we get sick, even when we get involved in an accident, our loved ones and all the ones that we leave behind would not suffer. Now, this brings us to the very subject for our discussion this afternoon. Planning our lives here and hereafter. You know, Kofi has spoken about aspects of what we can do to ensure that we get an awesome retirement. And as he was speaking, I was making notes myself because he was giving out words of wisdom that will stand all of us in good stead. I will be discussing other aspects regarding what we can do to have a stress-free retirement, as well as even a stress-free death. Why is it so? One would say that, well, when you are dead, you are dead. What do you care whether, how can you be stressful in death? But trust me, once you are able to plan your estate, take the necessary decisions, give what you want to give to this person or that person, appoint people who will take care of your family when you are not there. Even in your grave, you will be keeping a smile on your face. You know, so that is what I mean by that. So simply, we need to plan our estates. The question is, what is estate planning? Basically, when anybody hears of estate, they think of, oh, they are going to build a house. It's about brick and mortar. No, estate planning is the process by which we arrange our life's affairs such that in case of any eventuality, such as death, accident, or any form of incapacitation, the loved ones for whom we work so hard will not be found wanting. You know, and then what is an estate, really? One's estate encompasses every property, everything that one owns. So apart from the obvious, which normally we think of in terms of land, in terms of houses, in terms of other immovable property, other properties such as even cash, your clothes, your jewelry, your retirement accounts, your investments, your savings, all of that form part of your estate as a person. So estate planning is an ongoing process. It's not something that you do today and go to sleep. It's an ongoing process, and it should be started as soon as one has any appreciable level of assets. There are a lot of people who come to me and they say, oh, you know, lawyer, I've been thinking of having a will, but, you know, I don't have anything now. And I tell them, even the shirt on your back is your asset, is your property. You can put it in writing and indicate, when I'm not around, I want this shirt to go to this person or that person. Because trust me, when you are not around, the shirt that you don't consider to be anything, people will be fighting over it. You know, so anything at all that we own is part of our estate, and it's very necessary that we plan how things should go, whether we are alive but we are sick, or we have an accident, or even when the ultimate happens. The planning our estate should be part of our everyday goals, as I said. Unfortunately, as certain as retirement is, as certain as death is, most of us are unprepared towards these two events, you know, and aside the pain and grief that our loved ones will have to endure, they would also have to deal with contentious estate matters. They would have to deal with legal matters. And there's a whole lot of people who never recover from these things. So that is why it is necessary that in our own lifetime, when we have the strength, when we have the energy, we devote some time, sit down and plan how we want things done in case of any eventuality at all. So, as I said, now we need to plan, but obviously we cannot plan when we are sick. We cannot plan when we are incapacitated, and we also cannot plan when we are dead. So the time to do the planning is now. Most of the time we think that we are too young. Oh, I'm 50, I'm young. It's only in Ghana that you have youth associations who have members who are 60 years old. We always see ourselves as young. They say, oh, Anglican Youth Association, who is the president? a 62-year-old man or woman, you know. So we always have this feeling that, oh, we are not grown yet. But trust me, eventualities of life do occur at any point in time. And that is why it is necessary that we need to plan as quickly as possible. And that is now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to show how important it is for us to follow certain steps, and I'm going to be talking about at least 12 steps that we need to follow, 12 of them that we need to follow to ensure that our estates are put in proper stead so that we can sleep easy, knowing that in case of any eventuality, our loved ones are covered. But before I get to do that and list those 12 points, let me give you a little story. Now, sometime in June 2019, one of our very, very, very important clients' daughter called me and said she wanted to come and see me at the office. I said, oh, no problem, come along. You know, normally when the children call like that, it's either they are going to some school, they need notarization of their certificate, or, you know, something as simple as that. Because if the parents needed any legal advice, they would come themselves. So when the young lady called, I said, oh, no problem. I'm in Chambers, so you can swing by. A couple of hours later, she came in with her younger brother. And just seeing them, you know, they try to put on brave faces. So I welcomed them. Yes, what is it? And they indicated that their father, who was then about 56, quite a young man, had suddenly taken ill. And in fact, and that was just within a span of 2 months, he had been taken abroad. The doctors in Ghana had earlier indicated that his disease, his sickness was terminal. But then they were quite hopeful, so they took him abroad. They tried to see what they could do. As soon as they got there, the external doctors also indicated that, look, there really isn't much we can do. So go home, spend some time with him and see him off. So, but when they came to Ghana, they were still hopeful. So on the day that they came to see me, apparently the young man was still at the hospital and their mother had sent them to see me. And I was shocked out of my skin because just about 2 or 3 months earlier, I'd chatted with him on WhatsApp, you know, teasing him that his younger son was almost looking like him and they looked the same and that he was refusing to grow. You know, the usual banter that we have. And I never heard of any sickness. I never heard of any traveling. So as soon as they told me that, I dropped everything and accompanied them to the hospital where he was being taken care of. And lo and behold, I got there and that scene, I can't even begin to describe it. He couldn't see anybody. He couldn't comprehend where he was. He was just there. I mean, and I said, what could have happened? And at that point, the wife pulled me aside and all the anxiety and everything that was going on, there were 3 pressing issues that they needed to discuss with me. And the first one was, 1, they indicated that the man was the sole signatory to the family's business account. The wife was not a signatory because she had started taking care of their younger children at home. So because of that, since the man fell sick, they had not been able to make any withdrawals on their business accounts. And their suppliers in China had made their goods ready and they were on them, asking for hundreds of thousands of dollars to be sent over. Where were they going to get this money from? Meanwhile, there was money sitting in their business account at the bank. 2, the wife was not sure whether the husband had made any will. So she asked me whether there was any such thing. And the third one was whether or not he had asked me to prepare any document that would indicate who should give their consent in case he was sick or anything like that. Now, out of those three issues, this is what happened. For the first one, regarding how they were going to be able to operate their account, I advised them that they should go talk to their bank manager and see, at least ask that a new account be opened so that the proceeds from their sales could be paid in, which they will be able to withdraw so that the business could go on. And they confirmed that indeed that was advice that had already been given them by the bank manager. The second issue, that is whether or not the man had come to me for any written arrangements regarding how his health decisions were who was supposed to take decisions regarding his health in case of any incapacitation. My answer was no. He had never asked me to do any such thing. And the third one, whether or not he had asked me to do a will for him. And can any of you guess what my answer was? My answer was no. So with all of this going on, and that there was no will, there was no power of attorney for healthcare or finances, and that he was the sole signatory to the account. With these three problems, how were they going to even get money to pay for the medical bills? Now, guess what? Exactly 3 weeks later, the gentleman passed on, and we recently finished with the administration of his estate and making the applications to court and all of that. You see, I'm relating this just so that we see that these are not matters that are too removed from us. They are things that happen every day. We encounter these things in our daily lives. I believe that if we were having a physical presentation, definitely most of you would have had a story or two to share along the same lines. But when we hear these stories, we put on our long faces, we say the oh, ah, and all of that. And we put it at the back of our minds, thinking that, oh, it happened to A, but it will not happen to me. Unfortunately, that is not how it goes. And for that reason, and in order that we may not find ourselves in that situation, that is why I've put together these 12 simple steps that we could all follow. You don't need to be a millionaire. You don't need to be a four-eyed human being. This is something that all of us as normal people should be able to do to ensure that our estates are properly put in place so that in case of any eventuality, we will be safe, we'll be home safe and dry. Now, what are these 12 steps that I'm talking about? One, at least we have to make healthcare directives. What do I mean by that? We should be able to give a person we trust, a power of attorney, just a simple one-page document stating that in case you are not able to give any directives when you are sick, that person should be able to act on your behalf. I don't know, I believe most of us are adults. We've been to hospitals before. There are circumstances where a doctor may have to perform one surgery or the other, or one procedure, and they would need you, the patient, to give your consent. But if you are in a coma, how do you give consent? Legally, you cannot. So, but there must be somebody, an individual, who should be able to do that on your behalf. If you haven't prepared any power of attorney nominating such a person, your wife will jump forward, I want to sign. Your husband will jump forward, I want to sign. Your firstborn will jump forward, I want to sign. Your penny will put on his cloth and come, I want to sign. Everybody will, and there will be total chaos, So it's very important that we pay attention to that. In the story that I just told you, the wife, for example, was the main person taking all those decisions regarding the man's health. So, for example, going for the medical checkup abroad and giving her consent for the various treatments he had it here in Ghana, and so on and so forth. And the man's siblings were there. In fact, when I went to the hospital, I saw them. And one could sense the tension that was in the atmosphere, even though they were very civil towards each other. Why? Because a man's big brother being around, they will feel that, yes, this is my brother and I need to do this. But then his wife of over 20 years is also there, you know, and these are the kinds of things that we can avoid. And in most cases, if there is a power of attorney indicating that, oh, this person is to take the decision, everybody respects it. Everybody respects it, and it makes things a whole lot easier. So apart from that, the second one is also that at least you should prepare a power of attorney for finances. What is that? That is a document that you give to a trusted person, which will authorize that person to handle your finances and property if you become incapacitated or if you are unable to handle your own affairs. So you need a trusted person. You will decide, you know your life, you know your friends, you know your family. So pick that one person that you know, if I'm not able to sign a check, that person can sign for me. If I'm not able to get up and go to my property and collect my rent, that person can do so for me and will account. You see, so it's very necessary that at least we have power of attorney for healthcare, we have one for finances. Another one is also that this is something that those of us who own and run businesses, we never pay attention to. So for example, if you are a sole proprietor, what should you do? You should have a succession plan. You may be running your shop for 30 years, but if you don't decide that in case I'm not well, who should run it? In case I die, who should run it? The moment you are off the scene, then you leave a veritable and fertile ground for your family members to start cutting each other's throats. So it's very necessary that we do so. If we own businesses with other people, at least there should be a buyout agreement. In case you want to go out, what will be the terms? In case somebody else is coming in, what are the terms? So that's the third thing that we should do as people. Fourth one, the retirement plans that we have, that graciously Kofi spoke so much about, that's net at tier 1, at tier 2. The beneficiaries that we name on those plans, we need to take them very seriously. We need to take them very seriously. Once you have, on most retirement accounts, the effect is that the account is automatically payable on death, as we say. So it allows the retirement plan to skip the probate process. If you die having made a will or not, the individuals you name on your retirement plan will be the ones to benefit, to take the benefits that will accrue to you. And there are people who, for example, I remember when I was being registered for SNIT, I was at Legon. And just a couple of us, we marched to the SNIT office at Achimota sometime. That was about 29 years ago. We marched to Achimota and we went to fill the forms. And they said, they gave the forms to us. There was a portion that said next of kin or beneficiary or some expression like that. Next of kin.
Beneficiaries. Yeah.
Beneficiaries, exactly. And I mean, first year, Lego night, what did I care about beneficiary? I just put down some name. I said, oh, my mother or my father or who? They said, oh, put down any name. And I wrote some name. And that was it. And there are people who even write their boyfriends and girlfriends' name. Why? Because we just want to get the forms filled and move on so that the money will come. But at that point, we wouldn't know the significance of that requirement. So it's very necessary. So please, for those of us, now that we are listening to this, tomorrow, for those of us who haven't even gone to SNIT since we left school or since we registered with them and we've been contributing, please make a date, go to the SNIT office, any of them. Now, they are it's such a wonderful institution. They are very much digitalized. You get there, they can enter your name and your number, pull out your information and tell you whose name you put there. You know, I remember when I went there to check mine, that was sometime in 2008. Can you imagine? After having worked as a lawyer for 10 years, that was when I even went to check mine. And I saw my two brothers' name there. Quickly did I change. Quickly did I change and then updated it to show my status as at that time. So those are the kinds of things we have to do. Now, so nominations on our SNIT, it entitles the beneficiaries to what we are supposed to get, what should accrue to us under our pensions. So those ones, so please go take a look at them. The tiers 1 and 2, the fund managers or the corporate trustees, I should say. As Kofi mentioned, that you see that the corporate trustee is basically there to ensure that the administrative part is done. The custodian is holding the money. The fund managers are also doing their part. But one thing that I've observed is that under the law, they are supposed to be issuing statements regularly. They don't come. But we also don't have to sit down and fold our arms. We have to be proactive. So the same way I said, we should try and go to SNIT, look at the people we nominated and make the necessary changes where possible. We should do the same with tier 1 and 2 pension schemes as well, so that we always make sure that everything about us is up to date. So moving on, the fifth thing that we need to do is also, and it's something that we don't normally consider here, is joint property ownership. It may be joint bank account. The rule of thumb is that if more than one name appears on a land certificate, for example, it is presumed that the property is jointly owned. So, and once it is considered as a jointly owned property, it bypasses the probate process. So that, for example, if you have a property that contains your name and that of your husband, and you die, your husband doesn't need to go and get letters of administration before he can take the property, or go and get probate if you prepare the will before he can take that property. It will automatically become his because it was in your joint names. But you would realize that in our environment here, people want to own properties solely. There are people in marriages who own properties in their individual names. And you see Mr. and Mrs. so and so have been together for 50 years. One of them pops off, and the other one is now wrinkling their fingers. Hey, this house, what am I going to do? And you'll be asking yourself, why? Oh, the name was in Mr. Abrantier's name. The document was in Mr. Abrantier's name, and now he's gone. So what am I going to do? And the moment other people sense that, oh, your name wasn't on it, that is when they will come to you and tell you, give us the room to his bedroom, the key to his bedroom, and all of that. But once everything is done properly, it makes life easy. It's the same thing also with joint accounts that people open. I'm not advocating that people should just wake up tomorrow and go and open joint accounts with all members of their families. No. You see, but what can happen is, for example, I have a friend whose modus is that, look, I have an account, my wife's name is on my account. We are there as joint, but it is what I operate. It's my account, but her name is on it. My name is on hers, but I don't go snooping around to see how much is in there. Neither does she do that to me. But we do this just so that in case of any problem, I will be able to sign on hers. And she could also do vice versa. So this is something that, because the way we are, I mean, if you tell me tomorrow I should go and open joint account with people, I'm going to say, hey, please. But we have to be very intentional about it. What do we want to use it for? And it's a very, very good avenue that we can use to ensure that in case of any difficulty, in case we are not able to act, we have somebody who can do so on our behalf. But please, even for wives, for husbands, there are most people who think that, oh, this one, I contributed towards it, so I presume my name is on it. I contributed towards the acquisition of this property at Dodoa. It's my wife who was doing the up and down because I was in the office all the time, but I know my name is on it. Or it's my husband who was doing the up and down but I presume my name is on it. No, please make sure, feeling, make sure you see the document, make sure your name is on it. There's no point in making presumptions. And with that, we will all be happy going forward. So, and let me chip this in about the New Lands Act. You know, when the New Lands Act came, a lot of people were excited. And it was because there had been a provision indicating that there is a presumption of joint ownership, even if one spouse purchases property whilst within a marriage and puts it in their only name. I hope you get me. So that if I'm in marriage with Mr. A and I decide that I'm going to buy a property and I go and put Francisca Serwaa Boateng on it, it will be presumed that the property is for both of us unless I can prove otherwise. The same way with if he had also purchased it. A lot of people seem very excited about it, but we are yet to see how in practice that is going to work. And I always say that the best thing we can do for ourselves is to take decisions on our own, not to wait for a law court to make a decision. How many years do we stay before we get decisions? When we can on our own take the matters into our own hands and make that determination. So please, it's very necessary that we do that. And as I said, those properties that are owned jointly, they bypass the probate process. It makes things a whole lot easier. Now, 6. So I've mentioned power of attorney for finances, power of attorney for healthcare. I've mentioned also about naming your beneficiaries on your retirement plans, also the need to protect our businesses, and then joint ownership of estate. Now, there's something that one can also do as part of planning their estate, and is to set up a trust. Now, if you set up a trust, what you do is that whatever you want somebody to get, I have this property, I want to give it to my kids. You set up a trust, you become the trustee, you hold it in trust for them. In that event, when you are no more there, that property will not be seen and dealt with as part of an estate that needs to go through a probate process. So this is something that we need to consider. And to get into how the trust system works and what to do and the best thing to do is to engage your lawyer. Go speak to a lawyer who is well-versed in estate planning, and they will show you and tell you the advantages that come with having a trust set up. Now, 7, and normally I would put writing a will at the very tail end of it, but just so that we keep our mind on it, the 7th point I'll make is that at the very least, please, all of us, we should prepare our wills. At the very least, we should prepare our wills. Lack of adequate estate planning can cause undue financial burdens, not only on our loved ones. So at least, at the very least, not only on our loved ones, on ourselves as well, and on all other people who may be involved. At the very least, let's prepare our will. As obvious as it is, people still omit writing wills before they die. Why? Because we always feel very uncomfortable planning our death, especially when no one wants to die. I mean, life is sweet. So why wouldn't I be thinking of how I'm living life today instead of what will happen when I'm gone? But the reality is that death is the only one thing that we all cannot run away from. And it's the one reality that will come. And that it is necessary that we plan and work towards it. Now, as I said earlier, once estate will be administered, whether they make a will or not, your estate will be administered. Now, the difference is that if you make a will, you will determine who will manage the estate, and secondly, to whom you would want to give your assets. Those are two very important points amongst so many others that I'll be touching on presently. So you get to nominate your executors, you get to determine who your beneficiaries will be. On the other hand, without a will, it is a court that is going to take those decisions for and on your behalf under the intestate succession law, which is PNDC law 111. You see, so it is the court that will determine the administrators, and the provisions under the law will determine who will get what your spouse will get, what your children will get. Would we rather do it ourselves, or we would let a court do it for us? I believe that we would rather do it ourselves. Now, people do ask, oh, but Francisca, apart from saying that, oh, this person will get this and that person, I want this person to be executor, what else do I get from making a will? There are so many advantages to making wills. One, I've already indicated, you get the opportunity to choose your executors. You know yourself, you know your friends, you know your family, you know your pastors, you know your lawyers, you know everything about yourself and what you want. So you can sit down and determine that I want this person. For example, the late Boateng, in his will, he chose 3 metropolitan bishops as his executors. Yes, that was his choice. There are people who will choose whoever they want. You can choose your girlfriend. Nobody will kill you. You can choose your boyfriend. You can choose your classmate. You can choose. The most important thing is knowing yourself and knowing that this is the person who I think and I know will be able to take care of my estate. Boateng knew he was a very rich man. He died possessed of so many properties, and he knew he had kids from different angles. And so in order to ensure that everything went smoothly, he decided to seek the face of the Lord, to pull in top archbishops. You see, so we also know who we are and what we expect to happen. So we should be able to pick our own executors. We have that freedom. Secondly, as I said, we also pick our own beneficiaries. We won't allow PNDC law 111 to determine who should inherit what we have. 3 is that once you have your will prepared, it gives you your peace of mind. Trust me, because the process of preparing the will, you will realize that for the first time, you have to sit down and look at your life. Where are my assets? Where are my liabilities? And that is where you remember that, oh, I even set up a company with Amacha about 5 years ago. Hey, I forgot now. Meanwhile, the company registration documents are at Registrar General's. And you are under law to be filing annual returns and all of that. Have you been doing that? No. Is the company even being run? No. But when you sit down to put your life's activities together to prepare your will, that is when you get to think about all these things. So once you've done that, you enjoy your life, you have less worries. Another advantage is also that if you have young children, you are able to get, I pick a guardian for them. There are people who would say that in the event that I die when my kids are still young, I want Mr. So-so-and-so or Miss So-so-and-so to be their guardian. And it's a nice way of getting somebody to help your spouse. That is, if you go and there's a spouse living, to help your spouse to at least manage with taking care of the children. So it's necessary. And you can only do that when you prepare a will. You put it in there. Another advantage is also that when you make your will, you get the opportunity to provide for other people, even beyond your immediate family. So for example, once you make a will, you can give something to your dedicated house helps. There are house helps who have lived with people for years. They've lived with them, they've had their kids, they are still with them. You know, if you make a will, you can give them something. Employees, you may have very dedicated employees who have served you well, they've served your company. You can give them something. Your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews. And, you know, there's even opportunity for for you to give something to those that we describe as best friends and confidants. Lord, I believe you know them.
That's right. It's enough.
You can make, so the point is, you have the freedom to decide how your assets should be distributed and to whom. But under PNDC law 111, there's no such provision. The classes are just there. Surviving spouse, surviving children, and then who? Customary successor. And come on, most of us, we've been living in Accra and Kumasi and other cities forever. We don't even know who will be nominated as our customary successors when we die. But when that happens, they will come. And then they say your parents, whether your parents are there or not, and even the percentage is provided there. No. So it's better to sit down and prepare your own will so that you put down what you want. Another advantage, you can also make arrangements even for your final exit, so that your end of life wishes regarding even organ donation. If you want your kidney to be donated to Kolebu, why not? You can write it there. If you want your body to be cremated, you can do so. If you want to be buried at a dollar-denominated designer cemetery, you can do so. If you want a DCAD, if you don't want tributes. If there are people, I recently drafted a will. The individual told me, Francisca, you know what, I don't want any donations. And they should make sure that they don't keep me beyond 1 week at the morgue, and that they should hold my church service at this particular church, and it should be on a Tuesday. So I scratched my head and asked the individual, so why Tuesday? He said, oh, on a Tuesday, how many people in Accra would want to attend the funeral? I just want just a few people there. I said, oh, okay. You know, and you are able to do these things when you prepare your will. Assuming he had died intestate, I wonder if his family members would have rushed to. And when we finished the will, within about 2 years, he passed on. And they went exactly by his words in his will. They did everything. He said the ceremony should be for 2 hours. They shouldn't serve alcohol. They should just serve water. They shouldn't come and be reading tributes and talking about unnecessary things. The priest should just give a 30-minute sermon. They should sing his favorite hymns. After that, they should just disperse and go home. That's all. You know, so we are able to do these things when we prepare our wills.
So Francisca,
yes.
So we have about 10 minutes more to go.
10 minutes more. Yes. In fact, I'm getting to the tail end of it.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So another thing is also that it helps us to keep tabs on our assets and our liabilities. As I said, you sit down to think of what you have and what you don't have. Once you know that this is what I own, but you also get to know that, hey, I owe a lot more people than I own. You begin to look at your lifestyle even differently, because the house that you want to give to your mother, you know that if there's a mortgage on it, you would rather, instead of spending your money on the latest high heels and drinking at the most favorite spots, you would rather be saving those monies so that you can clear off that debt and know, this house now is there. I can leave it to A or B or C. And another point is also that once you have a will, it makes you feel very confident. You work with your chest out because you know everything is taken care of. If anything should happen, your family, your friends, loved ones would have no cause to worry at all. And then also that it minimizes disputes. As I said, once you put things down in black and white, it makes it very difficult for anybody to come and create confusion. Because if you say, my personal effects, if you are a man and you say, my personal effects, my clothing and everything goes to my son. You may have 10 brothers who will be eyeing your nice kente cloth, your ahenema, your fugu, your batakari. But once you've stated it there, they won't come and fight with your sons and take them away. And vice versa. If you decide that, oh, my sons are too young to be wearing kente, I have brothers, so I would rather give it to them. Your sons will not say that, oh, but daddy, you knew we would grow up. It's not even their business. You see, so it minimizes potential disputes. That is the way. Now that we've seen all these, we've heard of all these advantages of wills, is it the case then that a lot of people have wills in Ghana? Unfortunately not. And I've been looking for statistics on wills in Ghana. I searched and said I couldn't come up with anything. So from late last year, what I then decided to do was that at our law firm, whenever we hold any presentation like this, we would give out survey forms and ask very basic questions, whether you have a power of attorney for finances, whether you have one for healthcare, and whether you've made a will. And the answers that came for within the period, and also because of COVID, we've been doing a lot more of webinars, and webinars don't give us the opportunity, or let me put it this way, we haven't explored the opportunity to do that, to get that feedback from webinars. So the physical meetings that we've had, out of 72 people who answered the survey, only 4 of them had wills, which represents 5.56%. And don't think that these are people who we just picked randomly from the roadside. No, there are people who were professionals that we spoke with. So a professional organization, we give a presentation, we take the feedback. And it was such an eye-opener, both for them and for us as well. And every single person answered that they were interested in making a will. The question is why? Why don't we do it? And it is because most of the time we associate wills, making of wills, with the elderly. We think that all of us are very young and we are going to forever remain young. So we keep pushing it. And another reason is also that we are uncomfortable talking about it. It's a human reality. We don't. Because thinking about wills or talking about wills, the first question people are, hey, why are you about to die? I mean, can you imagine Kofi going home today and telling his wife, hey, I think you have to make a will. Why? Kofi, are you going to kill me?
She says see.
Sorry?
She says see.
She says see. There you go. As if I knew. So Essie will just scream. Why, Kofi? Do you want me to die? Why? You see, but I think with information like this, we'll be able to also have discussions with people who are close to us, our friends, our families, and let them know that it's not about somebody wanting to kill the other. It's about putting our things in order and planning our estates for the future. Another point why we don't make wills is the procrastination. Oh, I will do it. Oh, I will do it. Oh, Francisca, there are people who will call me. Hey, Francisca, hey, I want to come and make a will. Please, can you give me an appointment? Oh, you are busy. I say, oh, no, I'm not busy. When it comes to wills, I will drop anything and everything and I'll attend to you. But they will make the call and then they will disappear. I'll tell my office manager, please, send this person an email. We will literally follow up and harass the individual to come and do it because it's something that can cross your mind and you can easily forget about it.
Yeah.
So we keep procrastinating and all of that. What do we have to do to ensure that we will be able to stick with what we've discussed in terms of the making of wills? Now we know the advantages. We know what we stand to gain. So what can get us going? One, at least set up an appointment with your lawyer. It's very necessary. Set up that appointment, please. And once you do that, create a comprehensive list of your assets, including your investments, your retirement savings, insurance policies, your real estate, land, your personal clothing, your shoes, your cars. There are people who have bags worth $5,000. I don't know where they get them from. But for me, those are huge assets. So if you want to give such a thing away, hey, please make sure that you make a list, put them down, and then spend time thinking about who you would want to be the executor. Your executor is the person who is, as it were, going to step in your shoes if you are not around. So who is that person that you think and trust will be able to take care of your affairs in your absence? So think about that. And then who would you want to inherit the assets that you've mentioned? You have a pair of shoes that cost $10,000. Who do you want to give it to? You have a pair of shoes, if you are like me, the maximum price cost is probably 50 Ghana. Who do you want to give it to? It's yours. So you determine who should receive what. So once you do all of that, you know that you'll be able to set up an appointment. Once you commit yourself, you set up an appointment. As I say, at our office, even if you're slacking, we will come and pressure you. We say, come, because these are the kinds of things. The story I narrated about the gentleman, I felt quite personally even responsible for the lack of estate planning. Why? Because our law firm had been lawyers for the family for over 14 years. And most of the time they were coming for services regarding their real estate. They are buying a piece of property here, so we should assist them. They are doing this, we should assist them. But it never occurred to me that I should bring this to their attention. And normally once you discuss this with people, they understand and they will make time. And as I say, even if you forget about it, consciously or unconsciously, we will come after you. We will remind you so that you come and get it done. So having talked about wills, at least we've covered about 7 of those. The next one will be also to understand estate taxes. You see, once I've been signaled that the time is very short, but once you are planning your estate, you should know that if you go through the probate process, whether you are going for probate for a will or letters of administration, there's an estate fee to be paid, which is 3%. The court will take it before even the final documentation is given to you. So it's necessary that you know that. And then you can put aside something to cover your funeral expenses. It's very necessary. Most of the time, people bring us, they've been appointed as executors. They come to us, please, we want you to apply for probate. We go, we do the assessment. It's a huge estate. We do the assessment. The estate fees will be running into several thousands of cedis. So we ask them, okay, so where is the funds for this? They say, I've only been nominated as an executor. They say, hey, really? You see, because most of the time we don't even think about those things, but it's very necessary. If you can put aside, you can even open an account at your bank, put in 50 Ghana every now and then. Don't even go for it. And make it a payable on debt account, the same way that your slate is payable on account. So once you have something like that, the moment they are able to inform the bank and indicate that you are no more, the bank will make the funds payable, which will be used to take care of the estate. And then if you are an individual who have young children, consider life insurance. Consider life insurance, because if you have young children and you don't owe any significant debts or anything, if you should die unexpectedly, the insurance will at least cushion the fall of the loved ones you leave behind, and ensure that as much as possible, let's keep our debts low. As Kofi said, in retirement, we want to be happy. And we are going to be going through all those stages that he beautifully set out for us to know. And if we are going to be enjoying ourselves, we cannot go into retirement with debt hanging around our necks. So it's very necessary that we look at that. And finally, we should make sure that we keep our documents properly. As practitioners, that is one very, very, very big problem we encounter with clients who want their estates to be planned and put properly. Why? Because, okay, I have this property here, I have that, okay, beautiful. So please, let's have the documents. We want to see the schedule, so we'll be able to put in. Then they start scratching their head. Hey, this one, I bought it 20 years ago. The other time, when I was cleaning under my bed, I saw the land title in one of my old shoes. Why? Is that how you keep documents? And we all do it. We all do it. Some don't even know where anything is. So please, even after today, after this conversation, when we go home, let's try. Pull down the briefcases from on top of the wardrobe. Forget about the dust on them. You catch a cold, but it doesn't matter. Pull them down. Pick everything that you will get out of it. Get files. Put every information in there. It's very, very necessary. Because once you go and see your lawyer, it is very likely that they would need these pieces of information. And it's also good for you as well. Because eventually, the individuals you pick to be your executors or to be your attorneys under your power of attorney for health and also for finances, they would need these documents. And if they can't find them, you'll be creating problems for them. So I think having spoken about these 12 steps that one needs to take as part of the estate planning process, this will be a very good point to end. And so that if there are any questions and clarifications from you, I will be able to take them. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Lawyer Francisca, for a very exhaustive and detailed presentation. Participants, I'm sure you all enjoyed Francisca's presentation. I will not request you to ask so many questions of her, but rather direct you to her chambers so that any further issues you want about your will, you can discuss with her. And that's just by the way, anyway. So thank you, Francisca, once again. At this stage, participants, we move straight into the Q&A session. So if there are any issues you want clarified for you, this is the time to do it. Jocelyn is there to coordinate the questions for us, and then we'll take them as and when they are asked. So please, Q&A session. The question can be for either Kofi or for Francisca, no particular order. Thank you.
Okay, Lord.
Yeah, Francisca.
Yes, I just opened the Q&A and I've seen quite a number of questions there. So I believe I can start.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yes. So Leonie is asking, what do you do if executors after 1 year plus do not act? This is an awesome question, and I'm glad that it's come up this way. One thing is that nominating somebody as executor is one thing, and having them really take up the executorship when you are no more is another. And this is a reality, it happens. So when the executors or executor decides that they won't do anything, the beneficiaries have the option to go to court and take what we call letters of administration with will annexed. So it means that the will not be taken into probate the way that the executors would have done it, but at least as beneficiaries, the court will give you the opportunity to be the ones to administer the estate according to the wishes of the testator as they are stated in the will. So Leonie, once it is clear, but first of all, find out from the executors why they are not acting. You see, because as I indicated, it may very well be that they've been nominated and they are prepared to go on, but there's no money. And most of the time you see that when that is the situation, the beneficiaries will be aloof. They are waiting for you to finish gathering in the estate, finish the probate process, and they will come and take what is due them. But administration of estate is quite a costly venture. So that's why I made the point that it's very necessary that even for ourselves, we should be able to put aside something and say, this should go towards my testamentary cost. And when that is done, it makes it easy. But in the event that even the money is available, everybody is prepared to help, but the executors are not acting, the beneficiaries or any of them could apply for letters of administration with will annexed, and the court will grant it to them and they can administer the estate. So that is.
Another one from Dixon.
Mm-hmm.
Dixon, if I have land documents in my name, how do I add my spouse as a joint owner?
Mm-hmm. Good. So we call something an amendment. We call something an amendment. Initially, it was in your name. Now you want somebody else to, you want to add another person's name. Go see your lawyer. They will prepare the new documentation for you. And then if it's a document that's already registered, you take it through the process. And then that's it. Because it is the getting the name onto it. But you can't just pick a pen and on your own do an insertion. No, the new name should be reflected at land title, and if it's registered, it should be reflected, yes, at land title registry. So that is why there's the need for you to go through a process and get the name officially on the document. Yes, I've seen another question. Can an executor be a beneficiary of your estate? And the answer is yes. You remember the story I narrated regarding the Canadian Ghanaian? You know, the daughter was the individual he nominated as his executor. And she was also to benefit. She was also a beneficiary of the property in Ghana and other properties under the world. So you can be, so that is why it's very easy for people to nominate at least one child of theirs to be an executor or executrix, and then maybe nominate another person to join. So yes, you can be a beneficiary and an executor. Yes. Any others? Any other short ones?
Anonymous attendee. If I register my fixed asset in my children's name, will I still have control over it? If they grow past 18 or 21 years, can they take a decision on their property without being custody? What's the best way around it? Putting it in a will, or direct registration in beneficiary's name, or including the child's name as part of the registration process?
Good. This is something that we encounter a lot, and it's something that a lot of people do. You'll see couples buying property, then they'll say, "Oh, okay, we've decided we will put it in our children's name." Almost invariably, the children are kids. They are minors. They are less than 18. You see a 2-year-old's name on a property at Chano. Why? Because the intention they have is that they would want the child to benefit. So they put the child's name there. The question we ask is whether I will have control over it. Of course, for as long as the child is young, you would have control over it. But there have been instances where those children have grown up. They've gone through their parents' documents and they've realized that the houses in which they live are in their names. And then they start causing commotion. There have also been instances where you put the property in the child's name, and you may want to use that same property for a mortgage, for example, or for a loan, to use as security for a loan. But the loan you are going to take is not in the child's name. You are going to take the loan in your name. And they may, you see, so the control, I even look at it from those two angles, physically controlling it, and then having the ability to use the documentation for other things. And this is where preparing a trust comes in very handy, so that you can put that property in trust. And once you prepare a trust, there are terms and conditions. You can indicate at what point that property is supposed to go to the child. Not necessarily when they turn 18, not necessarily when they turn 21. So there are individuals who will come, and once they tell us what their family circumstances are, what their expectations are, and at what point they want the kids to. There are people who would say, look, Francisca, I don't want my children to grow up with wings, with chips over their shoulders, thinking that they have a trust set up for them. No. Before they can have any access to any property in the trust, they should have completed university, they should have had their masters. And in fact, there was an individual who said, I want to, they should be able to do a distribution when it is established that the child involved will be able to manage that property. So there are so many ways in which we would be able to achieve the aim, but not stifling ourselves in the process. But people mostly just basically say, okay, let me just put it in the name of a child, and that's it. But it would be better if you went to a lawyer, discussed it with them. What are your expectations and why? What is the reason? So that the lawyer will be able to advise you on the best vehicle to use to achieve your aim.
Thank you. Francisca, rest for a while. Let me go to Kofi. There's a question for Kofi. Please, Kofi, can I pay for my own pension to make up the lost years after being out of employment for a certain number of years?
Thank you, sir. The answer is yes and no. Okay, so under the Tier 1, the state scheme, you can buy back your pension. So there's a limited number of years you can pay back. So you cannot pay, say, over 6 years, 5 years. I think it's about 2 years or so, I'll check, but about 2 years or 3 years. However, you have opportunity to do the personal pension scheme, which that one you can do as long as you want. Let me quickly add that I'll be in a better position to give you a very good advice if I have a lot more information, because assuming now we are doing 15 years, 18 months. So assuming you have done almost 15 years or the 180 months, let's say you have done 160 months, meaning you have 20 more months to go. I would say continue, because that is interested in the aggregate number of months that you contribute, because then they will calculate your pension based on the best 3 years, which then allows you to contribute. If you've not done a lot, and it's probably you've done, say, about some 5 years, and you are left with maybe 2 or 3 years to go on pension, then it will not be advisable to go and continue, because in the end, you will not meet the qualifying condition for pension, and your money will be given to you based on what you have contributed and the interest of the prevailing treasury bill rate, which may not amount to much. However, you can now concentrate on your personal pension scheme, which the law says you can go on pension 60 years and above. So it's not restrictive. So you can, if you know you are strong, you can even stay to maybe 65 and then you go away. So this is what I'll say for now until I have a lot more information.
Thank you very much, Kofi. Francisca, there's a thesis for you from Kweku at Accra, Jomo.
Right.
He wants to know more about Samansiu.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Akweku, how are you doing? Samansiu is the traditional form of making wills. So the Asantes will say Samansie, the Akwapims will say Samansiu. You know, in the olden days when writing wasn't part of our everyday life, oral tradition, oral ways of doing things was the order of the day. So most of the time, and now at the point where writing came in, or we got introduced to the Europeans, we gave it an English name, which is deathbed declaration. So Samansiu, it is when somebody is about to pass on, they will make sure that they will call people. And of course, in traditional society where writing wasn't the norm, having witnesses was always very key. So you call at least 2 or more people, come. This is what I want to do. I want to give my cocoa farm in Asante Mambo to Kwame Boateng. I want to give my kente cloth to Obaya. I want to give my cutlass to Senanu. I want to give. So, and once this is done in the presence of witnesses, if the person passes on, the wishes that he expressed or declared is what the family is going to go by. So once the person made clear his intentions regarding the distribution of his estate, that would be respected by the family. So the Samansia or Samansio is the local version, I should say, of making of wills. And even now, we have people in several parts of Ghana who still do Samansio. And it's recognized under the law, because in Ghana, our customary laws and practices are part of our laws as a people. So that is Samansia.
Yeah. So there have been even cases in which persons at hospitals, someone in the hospital who's about to die, and there's not an opportunity for that person to get a lawyer to do a will for him. That person, the appropriate witnesses can also do the Samansio over there, and the law will give effect to it. Right?
Indeed.
So, yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, Leonie again asks, wills are generally read after funeral. So how does family know the testator's wishes regarding burial or funeral? For instance, the issue you raised about, matters relating to where you want to be buried and all those things. The general practice is that wills are read after funerals. In some places, they will even tell you that wait for another 1 year before you go and read a will. So how do we get to know about these things?
Good. Awesome. This is a very beautiful question, and it is a question that we hear almost on a daily basis, because most people now appreciate the fact that they can put their sentiments and their wants and their needs into their wills. But the question is, at what point are those instructions going to be made known to the people who should know? Now, what we normally advise is, if you have your will made by a lawyer, at least the people you pick as executors, if for nothing at all, they should know that so and so is your lawyer. Your lawyer will never, under any circumstance, disclose what is in your will to anybody. No, nobody will carry all the 1,001 provisions in people's wills in their heads. No. So at least at the barest minimum, they know that this is mommy or daddy or uncle or so and so's lawyer. Once that is the case, as soon as the individual passes, they will get in touch with the lawyer. And because a copy of the lawyer will be, a copy of the will will be at the court, a copy will be with the lawyer. Of course, the lawyer will not open his, but because the will was prepared at that office, if there are those provisions that would need to be seen earlier, then they can advise that in this, we would advise that we go and read the will, because in fact, I haven't come across any provision in the Wills Act that says you can only read the will after burial. It is just by practice. Yeah. It's just by practice that we read after. Now it's becoming quite common. People would want to go and have it read. Yeah. And also, most importantly, because at first it used to be, oh, the body belongs to the family and the family is taking it away and all of that. But now they've realized that they will come and take the body, they will go and do the funeral. When they finish and they come and read the will, everything is to the nuclear family. We are living in very practical times, you see, so we also have to look at things practically. So now it's as if, oh, okay, if so and so, did he have a will? Did she have a will? He did, okay, then what does the will say? If the will says they want to be cremated, some will gnash their teeth, some members of your family will gnash their teeth and huff and puff. But it is very likely that you will get your wishes done. You see, so it's not cast in stone that will should be made at the end of your funeral. Yes.
Thank you, Francisca. Kofi, when you claim your pension benefits way after retirement, like 70 years? Because you mentioned that you can work till about 65, and So when you claim your pension benefit way after retirement, like 70 years, does the benefit increase? Or is there any advantage with delaying your benefits way after retirement?
So it depends on the type of scheme. If it's a defined benefit scheme like the SNET one, which once you join, there's a formula to calculate your pension. And the formula is the number of months you contribute. The parameters are the number of months you have contributed and your best 3 years salaries. Then it will know it doesn't make much difference. But after all, they are going to look at the number of years the amount contributed at age 60 and calculate it based on the best 3 years up to the 60. So delaying is not going to amount much because after 60, you cannot even continue to contribute. If it's a defined contribution scheme where your benefit is purely what you have contributed plus interest accrued, then yes, because once the funds are with the corporate trustee, then obviously it's going to yield interest. The only snag there is that the regulator is now coming to say that after a certain number of years, if the trustee has not paid the benefits, then the funds should go to the regulator, which means that, yes, you can go and claim for the regulator, but it could be a bit cumbersome claiming your benefits. So that will be what I'll say to that. But once the funds is with the trustee, obviously the funds are being invested and you're going to get interest on its way to the funds will increase. I see another one saying that if you can get his retirement savings to invest in a particular company. It depends. If it's a defined benefit scheme, then obviously you have to meet the qualifying condition before you can get your funds. And one of the key things is the age. So you can go on voluntary retirement at 55, so you can have your funds, or 60, you can have your funds. Even if it's a defined condition at the tier 2, again, you must go on retirement. Well, but the law also gives room for unemployment. So if you are 45 years and above, I have to check. And then you can prove that you are unemployed. Then you can go for your tier 2 funds. So of course, then you can invest it. However, with the personal pension scheme or the provident fund scheme, the law says that for the provident fund scheme, you can have your funds without taxation after 10 years when you start. With the personal pension scheme, the law gives 5 years. So after 5 years, you can go for your funds and of course invest in any company that you so wish.
Okay, so if I work longer or part-time in retirement, will it be beneficial?
So this is what I will say. First, I know people who really plan and they retire at age 55, go on voluntary retirement. Now, in doing that, the advantage here is that if you've planned that you're going to do something on your own in a very relaxed way, then I say yes, you can go at age 55, you have something doing, and then of course, your pension will not be taxed. You can make money on the side, and so it's like you're making double money in a way. However, if you don't have that situation, then it's dangerous. Because what it means is that retire early and then things can go very wrong. So I would say that it is not a one-size-fits-all situation. You need to plan it well. I have a friend who was working with one of the biggest banks in Africa. He was a very top guy. He has set up his HR company way back. And at age 55, I said, Kofi, I'm tired of traveling every Monday to Lome and back on Friday. I want to have it easy. And at age 55, I went on reduced voluntary retirement and was taking it easy handling his HR company. You can do that, but you must be careful that you have planned it well. Otherwise, things can go bad.
Kofi, this issue about porting from one scheme to another. Yeah, this gentleman who said he left his employment, went to another one, and for over a year now, the previous company has not ported his benefits to the new company. So how does he handle this issue?
He has to deal with the corporate trustee handling the current company he's working with, because it should be something very seamless. And that's why I probably advise him to come to People's Pension Trust. Once we fill the form, you stay away, we do all that, because the law says that the corporate trustee that has to port has just 90 days to ensure that they've done the porting. The assumption is that they may have invested the money, and by 90 days, they should be able to redeem the funds. That's it. But what the law also says is that by the time you are porting, your employer should have also met all his obligations. So assuming, but even this was an individual, so it doesn't matter. If it's a company, then you expect that the company should have met his obligations. But it's an individual. My advice is that first of all, demand your statement of account, as Francisca said, from the previous trustee. If everything checks out, go to your new trustee and tell them that it's delaying and you're not happy. And they should be able to do it for you. I mean, it's a very seamless process. Otherwise, I'll say come to People's Pension Trust, we'll sort it out for you.
Now, the second tier makes provision for lump sum payment. What if I want to take my benefits in the form of a pension? Is that possible?
Yes, it is possible, but it is not, say, the corporate trustee that will do that. For example, what People's Pension Trust we have done is that we will arrange annuity for you. And with the annuity, we will purchase it from an insurance company. So for example, we take your funds and go to the insurance company and say, look, we want you to insure these funds and say that these are going to be the yield on it year on year. And now, for example, if it's 100,000, if we are paying the person 50,000, 5,000 a month, it should take us 20 years for it to end. And then there will be that agreement. We sign off, and then the onus is now on the insurance company. The reason that you want to do annuity is that so that you safeguard the value of the money. So that once there's that agreement that we are insuring these funds, they're not going to have a situation where you say that, oh, we couldn't make this interest and therefore we can't pay you this, we can't pay you that. So fortunately, I have seen a lot of movement in the insurance industry coming up with a lot of annuity products because the time has come. You know, we are 10 years and this is the time people are going to start going on pension. And so it is beginning to become very interesting in the insurance company, but we go the annuity method.
Okay, thank you so much, Kofi. It's been very interesting. If we're not careful, we'll spend the whole night over here. Yeah, but the good thing is that the participants and any are all members of the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce, and they always have the opportunity to engage either Kofi or Francisca on some of these issues. But Francisca, what are your final thoughts, briefly?
Yes. So thank you very much, Lord, and to Kofi and everybody else who has made time to be here. It's been very refreshing, and the nature of the questions that came, it means that a lot more people are thinking about their estates. A lot more people are taking their personal matters seriously, and they are thinking through and considering them and looking at the best way forward, what to do when this happens or when this doesn't happen. And it makes me happy. And it also means that all the speeches that we are making, the training, the education, the dissemination of information is going down well. And to come back to the subject that I spoke about, estate planning, as I said, it's not an event. It's not something that you do and fold your arms and go and sit down and wait for a rainy day. It's an everyday process. As we grow, we have to be looking at our estates and be making fine-tuning here and there. And the one other exciting thing about making wills is that a will does not take effect until you, the testator, or you, the person making the will, you die. So for as long as you live, you can always make changes to any will. If you decide to give this property to A today, and in a couple of years, they turn out to be a very big swine, you can always change your mind and do something else. If you decide to give it to one person, but you fall on hard times and you think that you need to sell it, you can sell it because it's your own personal property, you know. So it's something that we need to have at the back of our minds, and not just that, to take that extra step and consult our lawyers and make sure that the motivation we have in our hearts is translated into action, and that we actually go ahead and put our lives processes in order. And not just about the wills, but also the power of attorney for finances, the power of attorney for healthcare. Because most of the time we forget that we fall sick or we get into accidents. And when we do so, we may not even die. We may even get back to health. But it is under those circumstances that those pieces of documents will be very, very useful. And as it is, if you have a power of attorney for healthcare, it is only when your doctor issues a certificate stating that you cannot take care of your affairs that it will be effective. So if you name me as your attorney for your finances, if you have a headache, I cannot go to your bank and go and tell your bank manager that, hey, Papa is sick, so now I have the power to come and take money from his account. No, it doesn't work that way. I would have to be able to show a certified documentation from your doctor indicating that now it becomes necessary for me to act. So it's been a very refreshing afternoon, and I'm very happy that you all made time to be here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Francisca. Yeah, Kofi, your last thoughts. And whilst I wait, I want you to give a little hint about beneficiary nomination. You know, Francisca spoke about it. The tendency for people, after they have registered for the first time, forgetting to even update their beneficiary nominations and all that under the basic tier, the first tier scale. What about the second tier and third tier scales?
Yeah, so same applies. So the beneficiaries, once nominated, are not cast in stone. You have every opportunity to make changes. So one of the things that, for example, People's Pension Trust, we are doing is that we are, by next week, we are going to go live where our website is very interactive. So you can go in there, you don't need to even come to us, where you can change your beneficiaries as and when you want to. So that's make it very easy. Francisca also talked about statement of accounts. That's what we are doing now. You can either dial a USSD code to get a sign of your statement or go to our website to check your statement. So when you go there, it will direct you, and then you can check your statement. So we don't need to bring them to you.
That's fantastic. Once again, I'd like to thank all of you.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll end by saying that I thank UKGCC for this opportunity, and it's been good. And I also thank the attendees for making time to come to this. Francisca, it's been wonderful sharing the platform with you. Thank you very much. And then for my last word is that let's make the effort to make pension or retirement part of our mental calculation. It will come to us. We can't cheat nature. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kofi. Yeah, thank you, all of you, and our distinguished participants too. Some of you have been asking to know how they can join the UK GCC. So I'll just give a brief background of the UK GCC, which is the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce, which was established in 2016 with the support of the UK Department of International Trade as a member-based trade association to facilitate and promote bilateral trade between the UK and Ghana. via the 3 platforms of networking, advocacy, and trade services. So the UKGCC hosts several events throughout the year, giving its members the platform to build and raise their profile, get invaluable personal referrals, and word-of-mouth advertising, and explore business opportunities. The UKGCC is also a strong, reputable, and the most recognized voice of the UK-Ghana business community. It directly engages with both the Ghana and UK governments, policymakers, opinion leaders, and all relevant stakeholders by lobbying and advocating on the interests and concerns of its members. It also facilitates bilateral trade between the UK and Ghana through advocacy, capacity building, and market entry research. So we are very grateful to the UKGCC for this program, and we look forward to much more of such programs. If you want to join the UKGCC, I'll give you a number to call. So on that note, I'd like to thank UKGCC again, and Joyce Lane, and Serwaa, and your boss, our presenters, Francisca and Kofi, and all you distinguished participants for making it a very interesting day. Thank you all for coming, and I wish you a pleasant evening. God bless you all. Bye-bye.